Hello, everyone. Welcome to my search minutes today. And if you have any questions about search metadata, it's the best time to ask it now below this window. Meanwhile, I'm going to respond to some questions I've got by email in advance. One of those questions is, how can I filter by content type in search? And another question is, my metadata does not show up in my display template in search. What to do and how to troubleshoot this problem. So first of all, let me focus on those two questions. And really, meanwhile, if you have any other questions, I am here to answer. So feel free to enter your question here, and I'm going to respond your question afterwards. So basically, both of those questions. First, how to use content type to filter search results. Second, what to do if your search metadata is not working in your display template. Both questions go back to your search metadata, because actually everything in search is just metadata. So first, what I really want to share with you is how you can understand it and to help you to easily understand this kind of challenge. So first of all, let me share my screen because that's much easier to do that that way. And I can do that. This way. Probably it's better to switch. You can see my screen here. And on my screen here, what you can see is a search result page. And you can see that everything here is metadata. On the refinement panel, we can see metadata. On the search results, metadata. So this is what we are talking about. The content type question goes to this one, how I can filter by metadata, how I can use the content type as a refiner. And the other question goes to the display template. I want to display my properties like, for example, industry type or text type or location here, but they don't work. What to do in this case? So first of all, everything here is metadata. The refinement panel, the search navigation is based on the search verticals on the navigational pages are based on metadata. In the query box, you can use metadata, and also on the display templates, when we display the results, we display metadata. So actually, everything is just metadata here, and those problems go back to this question. So just to help you to understand a little bit more how you can imagine this problem, let me show you this. So first, you have the content metadata. You have your content type, you have the product ID, you have the customer name or the invoice number. Those are properties of your content. For example, SharePoint columns. And this is stored there. It can be used by the users there, but somehow we want to use it in search. So the first step, when you crawl the content, and I'm going to show you how it happens. So when you crawl and index the content, crawled properties are being created. Those properties are property definitions of the properties that are available in the content source. So for example, if you have a SharePoint column called project ID, you will end up having a crawled property named project ID. Same with content type. We have a content type crawled property, or invoice number, or customer name. So we will have a crawled property for everything. The challenge is that we have to control and own the metadata that we use on the search user interface. And therefore, we have to create a managed property for everything that we want to use. So if you want to have a refiner for project ID, you have to create a refinable managed property for that. If you want to display the content type, or if you want to display your invoice number or customer name on the search results, you have to create retrievable managed property for that. So everything that we use on the search user interface is basically a managed property that we have to create. And each managed property will be mapped to one or more crawled properties. And this way, you will end up having values in the managed properties from the crawled properties that gets the values from your content. So this is the process of how your content metadata becomes search metadata. This all extraction happens in the content processing phase during the crawling and indexing process. So when you gather the content from the content source and it gets processed and then indexed. In the middle, we have this content processing phase, and this is where it all happens. This is where all the metadata is extracted and also organized into the search schema as managed properties. This happens in the middle, regardless of the type of the content source or whatever. So this is how it looks like. And after that, understanding what's needed, I need a refiner for content type, or I want to display the invoice number, or those kind of things. You have to identify those properties that you need, and then you have to plan for it. So for example, in this case, you can see a table of the requirements, what kind of properties will be needed. So in the first column, you can see the search property, the managed property, the type of it, which crawled property it should be mapped to, how it gets the values, where it gets the values from, and then it's all settings. I don't want to go into each of those settings now, but if you want to have a content type refiner, definitely that managed property has to be refinable. So this is the first thing to check in the search schema, if your managed property is refinable. If it's not, you can change it from inactive to active refinable. And then you have to do a full crawl. You have to crawl the content again, and then you will end up having a refinement. Of course, you have to add that refiner to your refinement panel web part. For the other question, if your property is not being displayed on the search, and let me go back here. If your property is not being displayed, you cannot figure out why it's not displayed by your display template. There are several things to check. First, the property has to be retrievable. So just go to the search schema and check if your managed property is retrievable. If it is retrievable, you have to be sure when you add it to your display template, you use the correct managed property name. No misspelling, no typos, just copy paste the name, the exact name of the managed property to your display template where you want to use it. You can download a couple of display template examples from my site. So if you if you want to check it, you can get some examples how they work, and you can also find a couple of blog posts just to check the syntax and just to check how those properties can be added. But those are the two things. And also you have to reference your managed property in the top of your display template. So don't forget that step either. So once again, if you want to make sure that your managed property is being displayed by your display template, first, make sure that your property is retrievable. Second, make sure that you added the correct name of the property and did not make any typo or misspelling. Third, add it to the reference list on the top of your display template where you can see the other managed properties as well, the default managed properties as well. And also maybe a stupid thing, but also check if you really added the correct display template and not something else. So those are the things that you have to check if you want to make sure that everything is working properly. And let me check if we have any further questions. Looks like not. I'm giving you a few more seconds to be able to enter your questions if you want to. And if there is no more questions, let me check it one more time. Okay, if there is no more question, I also have a good news for today. And this good news is that I have contributed into a new ebook, the Search Insights 2018, recently. And this new ebook has been just published earlier this week. And it's free, no registration needed. You just go, click on the book and download it as a PDF. It's over 70 pages. And it's written by the Search Network, our group of search experts, not only SharePoint, but also open source search, intranet strategy, taxonomy management, you name it. Of course, I was contributing with the SharePoint and Office 365 search chapter into this book. So if you are interested in a bigger picture of this world, how we see the world today, definitely go to searchexplain.com/books and download a copy. And of course, your feedback is always appreciated. Thank you very much for today, and see you next time. Bye now. Oh, and the last minute before we go away, I've just got two questions. One is from Steve. Wildcard search. I set up a managed column for a text field and can do a search for a specific item, but not remember. What I would check. So, Steve, I guess the name of your property is permanent number, and you want to filter for 50,123, and in this case, it's working. If you filter for permanent number 50 and asterisk, it's not working. What I would check first is if it's a text field as a managed property. Just check the type of your managed property. Because if you have a managed property as a number, it's definitely not working. It's working for text only. Santamil, what do you suggest for document filtering if we use metadata? I am not really sure what you mean by that, but I can show you something and you let me know if this answers your question or not. So when it comes to document filtering and you use metadata on your documents, definitely you can use any of those properties. Like what I see more and more is the type of the document, which is not the content type and not the document and not the file type, but a specific type of the document, like a business specific thing. Another thing, when you want to filter for documents, like on this page right here, another thing I do quite often is use the is document metadata for filter for documents only, but besides that also exclude the ASPX pages, because they are also considered as documents. So if you only filter for is document equals 1, that means you end up having the real documents like PDF, Word files, etc., etc., but also the ASPX. So I would also exclude ASPX, the file extension ASPX. And in this case, you will end up having the real documents that make sense for the users. Okay, Steve's follow-up question. Is there an example of how I can modify the search schema on SharePoint Online to add in a manage column? I found an unmapped existing column to use. In SharePoint Online, I am in SharePoint Online at the moment on this screen. So here in SharePoint Online, you can do two things. If you go to Site Settings, here you have the schema, but on site level, you cannot modify the schema. You have to go to site collection level. So I go to the site collection settings here, and you can see the search schema here. This is where I can add new properties. And also, if you want to have global settings, since there is no search service application here as on-prem, so if you want to add new properties, global new properties, you have to go to the Office 365 SharePoint Administration Center, and there you can find the search settings, and under SharePoint search settings, you will find the global search schema as well. I don't see a link to download the Search Insights book. It should be there. If not, I can. searchexplain.com/books. Let me double check for you. This is my favorite thing. Oh, it's really not. Okay, so I'm sorry, the URL is not added here. I'm going to add it just right after this. But anyway, if you go to the blog, I have a new blog post about it. And in the blog post, the URL is already there. So if you hover your mouse over the book cover or here, you will be able to find you will be able to download the PDF. I'm just going to be editing the books page as well. And so thank you very much for your feedback. It's always appreciated. Thank you. Is there any further questions for today? Oops. If there is no question, I really appreciate. And see you next time. Have a wonderful day or evening ahead of you. Thank you. Bye now.